Welcome to this special 2024 election coverage episode of Kankakee Podcast, presented by Nana's Bakery and Cakes, Pathfinder, and Stafari West Avenue. I'm Jake Lamore. Before we get started, just to remind you that early voting is now underway if you choose to cast your ballot before November 5th. For more voter information, you can visit KankakeeCountyClerk.com. Today, I'm joined by Justice Linda Davenport, who is running to continue her work on the Illinois Third Appellate Court. In this episode, we'll explore her background, experience, and vision for the role as she seeks your support. Well, Linda Davenport, welcome to Kankakee Podcast.
Thank you, Jake.
So, tell us a little bit about you, because you are running for the appellate court. Is that correct?
Correct. Right.
Okay.
So let's just do civics 101 here.
Yeah, please, okay? Because there's so many courts and all the different levels, and so I would love to hear,
Sure.
a 101, please, because it's been a while.
So assume we have a triangle. Okay.
Okay.
So there are about 1,000 judges in Illinois total for all 13 million people, which some people find that a little surprising. They thought there were more, but there are really
I would
only
think there
about
would be
1,000.
more. Yeah.
No, only 1,000. So at the base of that triangle are 940, give or take 2 or 3, that are trial judges. So they're the ones that sit in Kankakee. They sit in Joliet, in Wheaton, period. They hear everything. They hear traffic, they hear murder, they hear divorce, adoption, tax, everything. So there's 102 counties in Illinois. Not every county has a county court. So bigger counties like Kankakee has one. Will County has its own. But Bureau, Grundy, and LaSalle are all part of one, and they're called circuits. So there are 25 circuits in Illinois. So that's kind of where we are. So if you go to trial in one of those, in front of those county courts, they're called circuits, and you lose, you have a right to appeal. And if you appeal, you go up that pyramid to the next level, which is the appellate court. And there are only 56 of us in the entire state.
Oh, gosh.
Where do you go? If your case is in Kankakee and you lose, where do you go? You come up to the 3rd District Appellate Court, which is where I sit. So the appellate court for the 3rd District includes Kankakee, Iroquois, Grundy, LaSalle, Bureau, DuPage, and Will counties. 2.1 million of my closest friends. And so it's what we do is hear those cases. And there are only 5 appellate districts. So within our district, there are 7 justices. And they come from Adrian Albrecht from Kankakee Zone. And me, I'm from DuPage. Lance Peterson is in Grundy County. Mary McDade and Bill Holdridge are in Peoria because they were in the old district before it was redistricted. Joe Heddle from Ottawa. So, and Liam Brennan from DuPage. And that's who we are. So if you lose in front of the appellate court, then you go up to the top of that pyramid, which is the Illinois Supreme Court. And there are only 7 justices. So if you think of it as every case that ever gets to the U.S. Supreme Court starts in a little courtroom somewhere in Kankakee or Wheaton or Joliet, and then moves its way up through the process of the appellate court and so on. Appellate judges don't retry the case. It's not like we have witnesses come in and we hear more evidence. We don't. But when you tried the case in Kankakee, you tried it with 1 judge and maybe a jury with. But on the appellate court, you have 3 justices. You have 3 brains sitting there reading everything that happened at that trial, listening to all the testimony, and our goal is, did the trial court get it right? That's it. If not, what can we do to fix it?
It's almost like you're investigators at that
Yes.
point. You know,
Yes.
you're kind of like you're investigating the court below you to see
Correct.
if they're doing their job correctly.
Exactly. And there's many things we can reverse if it's outright wrong. We can affirm it. We can affirm in part, reverse in part, many different things we can do. But each of us has an office in our hometown where we get to live. Mine is in Wheaton. We each have 3 clerks that work for us. And these kids, of course, anybody in their 30s I consider a kid. They're brilliant.
That would include me.
Yeah, they're brilliant kids, and they just are so friggin' smart. It's wonderful. And then One of us, of the three justices, is assigned as the author. We're responsible for writing the opinion. And then the other two, we have to get one of the other two to agree with us. The beauty of the appellate court is everything has to be in writing. All of our opinions have to be in writing, explaining why we did what we did so that people can
They don't
understand.
have to do that in other courts, in the court below. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. In the trial court, the judge can rule. He can say, no, the motion's granted, and not say why. And so the order that the attorney writes is motion granted. And so it's more instructive, and that's the beauty of the appellate court, is to say why we do what we do.
Okay. What does it take to get to the appellate court? How can a person make an appeal? What are the grounds for that?
If you think that the trial court erred, normally it is 30 days in which you have to file what's called a notice of appeal in writing. You file that. You have to, if you're the appellant, the one who says, hey, the judge screwed up, that's a legal term, then whatever, then yes, then we go up to the appellate court, that's the appellant. The appellee is the person who says, no, the trial court was correct. So we have briefs, which are memos in writing that are written by the people who want to appeal and the one who want the judgment to remain as it is. And that's kind of what we'd read. And then we get what's called the record, which is all the pleadings that were filed in the case from the time that it began, all the court appearances, the transcripts of everything that was said. And we actually can see video. If there's a criminal case and there's body cam, we can see that. We can see all of this and listen and read it all, because it is a process. It doesn't happen fast.
I would imagine, yeah. It's a lot to look at. So my question is, what are you strong about then when you look at these cases? Because obviously that's what this election is all about, is, Kankakeeans, or, people that live in Kankakee County and all the different counties that you cover. If they happen to find themselves in a situation where they're appealing a case and they're going to be in the appellate court, they want to make sure there's a judge there that they know that they can trust. So what are you all about?
Me, I've been a lawyer for 45 years. I finished law school and was 23, was probably mouthy even then, and was not inclined.
So you were perfect to be a lawyer then.
Seriously,
right?
You could ask my mother when I was 4. But bottom line is that I started my own firm, and I started in an attic of a little tiny office building in Downers Grove, up in a bubble. And I sat up there with no computer. I just had my radio, and actually was sitting up there in that bubble waiting for someone to knock on the door or come upstairs on May 21st of 79, when the American Airlines plane crashed at O'Hare. I was listening to the radio and just sitting in that bubble looking out in Downers at the smoke way north. And I just, I had a young family, and I loved to work, and it was great. I had a really good time with being able to be around my kids, which was huge. And so that was a big deal for me. Oh, we have company. Sorry. So
is that a chow?
No, she's a Samoyed. She's a
Samoyed.
Yeah,
Beautiful
just
dog.
a giant cotton ball, right? But
yeah.
So the bottom line is, we had. I grew my firm. I liked to be in a courtroom, so I needed clients. I went to local churches. I got their senior citizens clubs, and I said, "Hey, let me do your wills. I'll do everybody's will in the group for $1,000." And then that family needed their kid needed a traffic ticket done, or a divorce, or they were buying a house, etc. So that was pretty much what we were doing. And over the next 26 years, I built my firm to where, when I went on the bench in 2006, I had a 7,000 square foot office building, number of lawyers and support staff working with me, and I liked what I did. I really just enjoyed it. And then I became a judge in 2006 in DuPage County. Really, really liked what I was doing, but I started looking around and realizing that there was very little diversity on the bench in DuPage County. So in 2018, I ran to become a circuit judge. So that's the second part of this civics lesson, okay?
Okay.
What is the difference between an associate judge and a circuit judge? Other than a 5% pay, not much. They hear every case the same. That's not the issue. The difference is that circuit judges are the ones who pick who's going to be the young lawyer who becomes a judge, to become an
Okay.
associate judge. So that power in that circuit is pretty intense. In DuPage County, there were 15 circuits and 33 associates. And we had never had a judge of any color appointed in 179 years. And I thought that we ought to really try to work better at that to bring the richness of our community back into us. And so I ran and I won as a Democrat. And that was the first time that it ever happened in the county's history that a Democrat was elected as a circuit. So the county's 179 years old. So I pushed and pushed. I'm not there anymore. Obviously, I got a promotion in 2022 to the appellate court, but I've left behind a much different court system. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah. Wow. That's such a huge change. Do appellate judges, they don't appoint or have any say in appointing those associate judges, right? It's just the
Not at
circuit.
all. Not at
Okay.
all. So if there was a vacancy, for example, in Kankakee, a circuit judge retires, okay, then the Supreme Court justice that's assigned to that circuit or that district, they're the ones who make a recommendation to get appointed. Now, the justice that's in charge of the third district is Mary Kay O'Brien, who just
Yes.
won in 2022 and then went to the Illinois Supreme Court from Coal City in Essex. So she's up there. And then when her vacancy was created, the Supreme Court looked at 102 judges in the 7 counties, and I was lucky enough to be selected out of that group to move up.
So what has it been like for you these last, 2 years that
Pretty
you've
much.
been?
Well,
Yeah.
let's see, 22 months and 14 days, yes, and a couple hours, yes.
I love that you have it clocked.
Oh my
Love that
gosh.
you have it clocked out. So what has it been like to run in the appellate court then?
Well, I'm still married, which is I consider phenomenal. It's 45 years. But, it's early in the day, Jake, who knows? Bottom line is that I was appointed on December 15th of 22. January 1st, I started campaigning. And by campaigning, what I believe that to be was I started just talking to more and more people, which is how I campaign. I'm not a big money raiser. That's not what I do. I go to Bourbonnais. I put up a scarecrow at the Bourbonnais Scarecrow Fest. I just talk to people everywhere that I possibly could about who I am, what I believe in, why the law is so important to me. And then everywhere. I was down in Iroquois County. I was in Bureau at Princeton. I had to buy my car lease because I blew out the lease after like a month and a half. So
Oh my.
that's, averaging about 600 miles a week on my car is how this campaign has been.
Yikes.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
But my car just automatically goes to 355 south, turns east on 80, south on 57. I don't feel like I don't even have to drive it anymore. I know exactly how much of my book I can listen to drive.
So what are you facing then going into I should say, what are some things that you would like to see different in the appellate court? What is the state of it? Do you think it's in a good place right now, or do you think there's some things that need to be addressed?
I think the appellate court conceptually is in a great place right now. It is able to handle the cases. Last September 17th, a year ago, we had the Pretrial Fairness Act come into play, and we were inundated immediately with cases. But to ask what's an issue is misinformation is really such a problem in so many areas of our life. Realistically, I would say that, for example, on the Pretrial Fairness Act, we were told criminals are going to be let out, people are going to be running in the streets, whatever. No. The bottom line is that one is post-conviction, which has nothing to do with the Pretrial Fairness Act. If someone's been convicted of a crime and they're in the penitentiary, that's where they're staying. That has nothing to do with this. This is for pre-conviction. So someone is charged, okay, and they had a right to post bail and get out, okay? Well, I'll give an example when I was in the trial court. So that was 17 years in the trial court. I had bond duty on the weekends sometimes. If a a young man came into me and he was carrying in DuPage an inordinate amount of cocaine for sale and was arrested. And I set the bond, and this is natural, I set the bond at $250,000. He didn't have $25,000 to get out, so he's sitting there. On Monday, though, his friend came in and paid the $25,000 in $20 bills. Now, his runner is out, okay? I have no say in this. So under the Pretrial Fairness Act, or the Safety Fairness Act, what we talked about is the legislature said the judges should have discretion to determine whether someone gets out of jail or not. So in other words, there isn't enough money that you can pay to get out. So the bottom line is that if a judge feels that the person, there's a likelihood that they committed the crime, the facts are strong, they are a danger to the community, they have a past history, for example, where they failed to appear regularly, we can keep them, the trial judge can keep them in jail. And that's something we didn't have a right to do before.
So, really? Until the Safety
correct,
Act?
That discretion, yes. So under that Safety Act, that I believe statistically it might have changed in the last couple of weeks, so I'm not up on it that fast. But bottom line is, I believe there are more people in custody today than there were before the Safety Act, because judges now have, at the trial level, those 940, they have the discretion to say, no, you don't have enough money to get out. And I think that sometimes, bless you, sometimes people had too much money and they could just get out. And I think that's wrong. So the appellate court was inundated with those. The Supreme Court immediately acted because people have a right to appeal the denial of getting out. So keeping them retained. Bottom line is that the Supreme Court jumped on it, made the necessary changes. We have a lot of work as appellate justices. We're busy 5 days a week, but bottom line is that's something that I'm very proud of for what our appellate court did. Things I think we can continue to do is bring the court to the people, because people don't know what judges do. So
yes.
I'm
glad you bring that up.
Yeah. Our court sits in Ottawa in the most beautiful building. It's kind of like your Kankakee courthouse. It's just, you see it, you're like, oh, okay, this is important. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like I want to there's so many days where I just want to walk in the courthouse, but I have no reason to. And I really, I can't really necessarily unless I have business there, just because it's so beautiful.
You can walk in and you can sit. Any courthouse in Illinois is open to the public. The only ones you can't go in are juvenile courtrooms. You can't go in there, and there's reasons for that. But
sure.
So our third district sits in Ottawa, in that great old building built in 1861 with all the steps like Chichen Itza outside. It's so beautiful.
Yes.
So it's across the street from where the Lincoln Douglas debate took place.
Oh, so yes.
The first time I walked in there, like the 60-foot ceilings, and I thought, wow, this is why I went to law school. I think I started crying because I am a wuss. But bottom line is that I think you need to move the oral arguments out. So stepping back, when lawyers or litigants decide that they want to file an appeal and they want to have oral argument, they have the right to argue before 3 justices on the panel. They won't know who the panel are until we actually walk out there, so that there's no picking or choosing who you want. So we come out there and then we deliberate and we write our opinion over the next couple months. But the bottom line is that we moved our oral arguments to DuPage County 1 month. We moved them to the College of DuPage. We had 200 high school and college students sitting in the audience watching an actual oral argument involving whether a felon had a right to keep a gun, or have a right to a gun license. So, I mean, they were listening to this. You could have heard a pin drop, Jake. I mean, afterwards, they asked questions of us. It was phenomenal. Then we did it again down in Joliet in July. We went down to the Joliet courthouse and we did it down there. And we had an audience there as well. So I like that we move it out into the people, trying to see if we can't find a place in Kankakee, finding a place, other places in Morris, just so that people can see what we do. Transparency in the courts, I think, is critical to our reputation and to the strength of trust that people put in us.
Oh, absolutely. And there's just, just the little civic lesson you gave earlier about, the different levels.
Sure.
I just think, and especially when it comes time to, right now in this election season, like when people are are going to the polls, or to to their voting place, and they're placing their votes. A lot of times, I can almost imagine, and myself included, I'm looking at the names of these judges, you included, and I'm like, I have no idea who this person is. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
like how what I don't know. Do do I like them? Do I not like them? Like
Right.
it's just and I guess it's there's a lot of focus on the other races that are happening, but I do feel like the justice uh races and judge races, they get overlooked sometimes,
And they're
or a
so
lot of times.
critical. I mean, you can't vote for who sits on the United States Supreme Court. That is a Senate confirmation process, so we don't get to choose that. But we do get to choose the person sitting up there in the black dress that hears your divorce case or your son's criminal case or your daughter's adoption. It is critical that that person being up there is there because of what they knew, not who they knew. And that's huge. That's absolutely huge. So I tell people for one thing, my campaign slogan is vote from the White House to the courthouse. So we're on the back of the ballot. So you don't forget to turn the ballot over sometimes.
Right.
But that's where we are. And the judges are up for election. You have a judge that's up for election. I think he's unopposed in Kankakee. You have the justices that we have. You have your state reps. You have everybody. And when they say all politics is local, it is also judges, because we like that our judges come from communities. The legislature just did something in the last decade where they looked at bigger counties and they divided them into subcircuits. So DuPage has about 1 million people, and pretty much all the judges that came from maybe 2 or 3 towns. That's it. So the legislature divided DuPage into 7 subcircuits. And then the one subcircuit is being filled first. The first Black woman to ever sit in DuPage County is running up there, Chantel Porter. She comes from that area. These are people that know her and have watched her grow up in Hanover Park. The second subcircuit is down in Naperville. It's the first Jewish judge in 185 years in DuPage County. So we're really trying to bring neighborhoods, and I'm very happy that the legislature did that. I think it has more accountability for people when they answer to those people that know them.
Yes, like you were saying, you're big on diversity
Mm-hmm.
in the courtroom, um, and that kind of leads me to, um, what are you brought up the Safety Act earlier, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a big topic
Sure.
right now. I mean, ever since, even before it passed, it's been a hot topic. Um, but is there any
But I'm
other?
trying to understand why. That's the thing. I think it's
Well,
like it was a
I
fear
think we all
thing.
are. I think we all are trying to understand. It's almost like anything else. There's a lot of cloudiness.
Yes.
Trying to figure out what every side is saying about it.
Right.
So,
I just happen to stick with the truth. Okay. Here's what it says. It also says that all police officers in Illinois by 25 must wear body cam.
yes,
You know how much easier that makes my job
much
if I
easier.
have video?
Yes. Well,
It's yeah.
and a good example of that is the trial for Darius Sullivan here in Kankakee County for the murder of Sergeant Marlene Ripmanek and Bradley back in 2021. That case, they were able to use body cam footage from that night, and I think without that body cam footage, I don't think they would have been able to figure out what really happened. So it seemed
People
like it
think
was.
that the body cam footage is like the reels that you see on TV, when people get stopped for DUI, or the sovereign citizen that, is getting into an argument. Police officers, I don't know if you have this ingrained in you, the amount of patience that they have to do their jobs. It's so much stronger than I could ever do. I'm so thankful for them. I was endorsed by FOP statewide. I just thank God for the police officers that protect us. But I want to give them tools to do that. And I think I'm thrilled that body cams are out there. I know that it's getting used to it and it's a cost, but it's a lot better than the cost of lawsuits.
Yes, I would imagine so. Regardless of how anyone feels about the Safety Act, I think we can all agree that that is a great thing. That is a part of it. Is
Hmm.
the body cams.
Yep,
So
yep.
that makes that
And
makes
as a sitting judge, I think that it is a good thing that judges now have the discretion to say no. I don't care how rich you are or how rich your friends are. You will stay in custody until your trial, where you might be found not guilty, but you're going to stay there so that the community is protected.
what else, Linda, would you like to get in and let people know about?
I think if someone asked me where was I was down at Grand Haven, I think at a retirement community, and someone asked me, "What's your philosophy of the law?" You know, I said, "The law applies to everyone equally. It really does. And when we don't apply it equally, then it doesn't work for anybody. Because if you can't assume that the same law is going to apply to you, whether you are rich or poor, have a lawyer, don't have a lawyer, black, white, then it lessens for everybody. And if you can't trust the court system, it's not like we have an army to enforce our laws. We don't have that. We just have
Right.
the law. And clearly the law has expanded. Take a look. So another Civics 102 now, Jake. Okay, we're moving in. You have mistakes that the Supreme Court has made. You have Dred Scott in the 1840s. You have in the 1890s, you have Plessy versus Ferguson. Separate but equal is okay. A school for blacks and a school for white, that's okay. Then, no, Brown versus Board of Education in the 1950s. No, separate but equal is not okay. Loving versus Virginia in the 70s. Interracial marriage. No one can tell you who you can love from the other race. And all the expansion of the law has been as society has grown. So I would like to see us keep moving forward to make sure that the law makes our lives better, we don't take away things. That's kind of who I am in a nutshell.
Okay, that's helpful. I think another maybe helpful thing that our listeners could use is maybe just some, if it's possible, to talk about one or two of the cases that you have seen since being in the appellate court and how you made your decision on some of those cases. I don't know
I
if
can
any
talk
of them
about
have been
one of
final.
them. I
Okay,
can talk about one that's over, and that's pretty much it.
yeah,
I
because I know
remember
they
I
go
told
they
you
go on for so long.
they shouldn't. They
They
shouldn't.
shouldn't,
That's
but they
true.
do. Yeah.
And so realistically, we each of the seven of us, we probably each have about 40 cases. I would say maybe 20 where we are the author and another 20 where we are on the panel with someone else. So yes, it takes time. Filing the notice, I said within the 30 days, getting your briefs written, and then getting them up to us, getting the transcripts, everything up, that's huge. But bottom line for me is that here's a case. It's my first one, and I've been an appellate justice for about an hour and a half. And I'm assigned this case, and it's a murder. Two young women from downstate Illinois, not in any of our counties, get into a fight over a man in a parking lot. And they are pulling each other's hair, they are fighting. Of course, someone has a phone and they're filming it. And one woman pulls out a can of pepper spray and sprays the other one directly in the eyeball. Now, she's, for all intents and purposes, blind. She can't see anything, so she pulls out a knife. Oh, great. Good decision. And with one blow, one strike, strikes her in the thigh, which hits the femoral artery, at which point she bleeds out. Now, she had one strike through jeans, hit the femoral artery. Doctors can tell you that it's hard enough to find the femoral sometimes when you're naked on on an operating table, but once, and she bled out. So there were some issues with a video that was admitted. The charge was first-degree murder, and for those people that get most of their education from Law and Order, they probably would know right away it should have been involuntary manslaughter.
Yes.
But she was convicted and came back to the trial. It came to us on appeal, and it took a couple years to get up there. And it was my first case. And I listened to the arguments. And once we finish the arguments, we go back, the three of us, and in Ottawa, they give us cookies. It's great. We sit in a little room and we talk for about a half an hour just to get a general impression, where is everybody thinking this is going to go? We're not making our final decision, but what do we do? So bottom line is that I said, I think the charge was wrong, and we reversed it, which the both of them agreed, and it went back to her county, where she pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter. The 50-year term for first-degree murder was reduced. I think it was 10 years. She gets credit for time in, and she'd already been in about 4 years. So I think she probably has another year or two, and then she will be out. But that was a big one.
Right. And so in your eyes, it's involuntary manslaughter because there wasn't evidence that shows intent that she was really wanted to murder this other woman.
Very good, counsel. You hit it. You hit it. Yeah.
I'm just trying to make it clear.
No, you're absolutely right. It did not form the intent to do that.
So when you're doing these cases, you're just sitting in Ottawa then, right? You're not going to any other courthouses.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Now, our courthouse is under construction right now, so we're trying to do them by Zoom, and we always give litigants the opportunity to do it by Zoom because it's expensive to have a lawyer have to drive to Ottawa.
Yeah,
so we always give them the opportunity. We can do hybrids where a judge is ill and not able to come in, and we still do the panels. So no, we're pretty high tech in Ottawa.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And it's just 3 judges hearing this case from 2 lawyers. There's no jury.
Correct. Nope.
Okay.
Because we're not getting anything. No new evidence can come before the appellate court that was not before the trial court. We can't go outside those limits. We can make sure that the judge applied the right law correctly, that there wasn't misconduct, that there wasn't interference, whatever. We can go through that. But when the 3 of us walk out from the back door to in front of the lawyers, that's the first time that they know who the 3 of us are. So,
if there's anything else you think from your past that will help voters give an idea of whether they want to vote for you or not?
I would just say that at 71, I am still loving what I do. My husband is a lawyer. He's 76 and just started a new job last month. Both of our daughters, I know it. Mostly because he's afraid if I lose, I'll be home. So he wants to be out. Both of our daughters are lawyers. My son-in-law, my brother, my niece. The law, I love what it gives us the opportunity to do. So I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah. Well, if you win and you want to try to do one of those events where students or whoever can see one of those cases, let me know, because
that'd be
very
great.
interested in witnessing that, being a part of it in some way.
Your listeners too can also watch the Illinois Supreme Court live. I mean, they live stream their arguments where the attorneys are arguing. So that's fascinating. Get a cup of coffee, sit down, and listen to that.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. Yes. See, I guess I never really thought about that. Again, there's just so many other things that are constantly grabbing our attention. I feel like the courts don't always. It just can, be kind of put to the side.
We assume it's going to all work well, and it's lovely that we have that assumption. But if we don't fight to keep it that way, it won't stay that way.
I suppose that's when it does become mainstream news, is when it's not working well, and then everyone's paying attention.
Correct.
So, okay. Well, Linda, thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
I really appreciate it, and best of luck to you.
Thanks, Jake.
Regardless, I know it sounds like you are very passionate about what you do. So, regardless of what's next for you, I'm sure you're going to knock it out of the park.
Thank you. You have a good one.
Thank you. You too, Linda.
Take care.
That wraps up our conversation with Justice Linda Davenport, candidate for the Illinois Third Appellate Court. We hope this episode provided useful insights into her platform and approach to serving the judiciary. Special thanks to Nana's Bakery and Cakes, Pathfinder, and Stafari West Avenue for sponsoring this election coverage. Stay tuned to Kankakee Podcast for more local stories and election updates.